David French is a senior writer for National Review. Dana Milbank is a political columnist for the Washington Post. Gentlemen, thank you both. Mr. Milbank, I'll start with you. You wrote about the Synagogue Attack in your new column, and you wrote in part, Trump's America is not a safe place for Jews. You write, whatever Trump's motives, his words and deeds inspire the hateful and the violent. Are you saying that there is a line to be drawn from the president's words to these two despicable acts, Dana?
Well, of course there's a line to be drawn, Craig, and I'm not saying you can get in the mind of these crazed killers, and I'm not even trying to get in the mind of the president. I'm just saying it's very clear that the sort of rhetoric, both in terms of scapegoating of vulnerable groups, and of course Jews are only one and not the ones who experience the most of this, but also the constant references to violence, approving references to violence. This has to have this sort of an effect on riling people up and making the crazies, the ones who are, hearing voices telling them to be violent, that it's okay somebody in society who is legitimate is condoning that. And that's what I feel is happening here. It doesn't mean that we in the media don't share some blame or that people on the left don't share some blame. Of course we all do. The problem is the guy with the biggest megaphone has sort of brought people in from the fringes by saying your conspiracy theories are valid.
There have been some critics, David French, who have suggested that the president knows precisely what he's doing when he talks about globalists versus nationalists. They say globalist refers to Jews, nationalists are white Americans. Take a look at this.
They're called globalists. They like the globe. I like the globe too. I like the globe too, but we have to take care of our people. We have to. Globalists. Come on.
That term, David French, that word, critics who have suggested that the president's sending signals there, could you see why someone might think that, or is that a reach?
I think that's a major reach. I think it's a shorthand term for talking about people who are, for whatever, however else you want to say it, internationalists, people who are wanting the United States to be more engaged in international agreements and international arrangements. I mean, this has been a big part of the political battle in the United States for a very long time, and it's not specifically connected. For example, debates about NATO, which are part of this, debates about relationships with South Korea, which are all part of all of this. That has nothing to do with anti-Semitism. It's not a shorthand for anti-Semitism. That's a major reach. And I think what we have to do is we have to be really careful, and we got to be really precise here. There is a very big difference between a bomber who loves Trump and targets people that Trump specifically identifies in his speeches and elsewhere as being particularly heinous, and a shooter who hates Trump and targeted people that Trump has not targeted. So those are two very different things, and when we conflate them, I think it's a problem.
But David, would you concede, though, that both of these men appear to have been radicalized by some of the nonsense that they have read on the internet, some of the legitimate fake news?
Well, absolutely. We know the bomber was radicalized into sort of this Trump superfan community, this very dark troll community that many of us in the journalistic world have experienced firsthand. There's no doubt about that. This other guy, however, I think was radicalized into a different community, not the Trump superfan community, an older white nationalism, an older white supremacism, an older anti-Semitism that has existed before Trump and sadly will exist after Trump. And I think they're a little bit apples and oranges. We can't treat them exactly the same.
Dana, the president doing what he's wont to do in situations like this as well, tweeting. There was a tweet a few moments ago calling the Democratic nominee for governor of Florida a thief. But before that one, this is the president's tweet this morning. There's great anger in our country, caused in part by inaccurate and even fraudulent reporting of the news. The fake news media, the true enemy of the people, must stop the open and obvious hostility and report the news accurately and fairly. That will do much to put out the flame of anger and outrage. Fake news must end. Mm-hmm. Dana, go ahead, Dana.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's clearly what he's decided here is he's going to go out in these midterm campaigns the way he went out in 2016. You can sort of see this happen over and over again. Initially, you know, the words appear for him on the teleprompter. He says what he's supposed to, what has been written for him after the Pittsburgh attack, and then it just it sort of has a half-life, and it breaks down, and then he's back to where he was before, if not taking it even further. And of course he knows what he's doing in terms of riling people up. And I'm sure when David uses a term like globalist, he's not using it as some sort of dog whistle. But think about how Trump does it. He used the word globalist during the campaign in a speech. The Anti-Defamation League said, please, Donald Trump, you are playing on Jewish anti-Semitic tropes. Please don't do it again. He responded by putting out an ad, not only using the term globalist, but putting on the screen the photographs of 3 Jews. So I don't think it's much of a reach.
Dana Milback, David French, thank you both, gentlemen.